Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I was thinking about this and it reminded me of something that happened in high school. A good friend of mine offered his opinion, I guess it probably wasn't his opinion, he read it somewhere, that human patience adapts very quickly based on how long we expect things to take. So let me give you an example. Let's say, or he implied that that was a bad thing, that you didn't want your patience to run out, obviously. So for instance, if we're leaving work and it normally takes us 20 minutes to get home, but today, of all days, and you really wanted to get home, the city put up a new stop sign on your way and it now takes you 21 minutes, does that annoy you? Or does it run out your patience? Okay, well it might, but is it really worthy of it? So I think about that, and I say, well, if I'm late for something, obviously I'm bothered, my patience is run out. But if there's a really good song on the radio in my car, maybe I like to be in the car an extra minute or two, right? But I'm not sure that that's what my friend really was looking at. He was actually talking about technology and how it changes our expectations for how fast things go. So I question that point and I think about it a little bit. What about the speed of technology? Why does it change our expectations for how fast we do things? All right, he made this comment, by the way, back when the phone was still the arch nemesis of the internet, okay? This is the time when we would dial up by actually calling the internet, right? We hear those tones and all those things, and we would hope that no one would call so it wouldn't disconnect us, right? So that was like the worst thing if somebody called. I remember actually getting on the computer, you would start the dial-up, you'd go to the kitchen and get a snack, eat it, come back, right? Just in time to wait for it to finish loading, right? Then the internet obviously got faster and faster, and today when we click a link and it doesn't instantaneously deliver us what we look for, we assume there's some massive disruption in the force that is targeting the ruination of our lives, right? So I think that was really the basis of my friend's opinion, that technology will increase our expectations for how fast we should obtain and absorb information, and when it isn't available in the time that we expect, we'll move on to something else, okay? But isn't this a good thing? Shouldn't we need to go through processes faster, and then we can get on to the next thing? And in fact, I think that's a great idea. When I search in the internet for information, I certainly want it before I have to eat my sandwich, right? In my mind, with technology, we were able to be more productive, not less. So I think about my friend's opinion again, and I think, well, there must be some research that supports his opinion. I mean, whenever I go anywhere, I notice that we're all somewhat addicted to our screen time. Last night, for instance, I noticed that I simply couldn't remain engaged enough to let them ring up all of my groceries, because I had to check my email. Do we simply have no patience left? Put another way, what is our attention span today? So I looked that up. What is our average attention span? Well, according to Microsoft, they did a recent study and they defined attention span as the amount of concentrated time on a task without becoming disconnected. Well, that's kind of an interesting definition, but the study concluded that the average attention span of humans is now 8 seconds. So you tune out in 8 seconds if you're not actively engaged. Well, I looked at that and I said, well, do we have any studies that say how long what it was before? So in 2000, they said it was 12 seconds. I thought, certainly time is sped up, technology sped up faster than 4 seconds to make us expect things to happen faster than that. Then I looked at the next thing and I figured out that the really disturbing news is that 8 seconds is approximately 1 second less attention span than the average 9 seconds for a goldfish. So isn't our attention span or our ability to concentrate longer than that? Obviously we think about things longer than 8 seconds. I kept digging because I thought there has to be something more to this story. Other research by the University of Illinois concluded that our attention spans haven't really shrunk, but instead our brains are incredibly adaptable and able to process increasing amounts of stimuli in a shorter amount of time. They determined that expert video gamers, the classic source for how fast things occur, right, in technology, they track objects moving at greater speeds. They're better able at detecting changes to those objects that are stored in their visual short-term memory, and they switch more quickly from one task to another. And they mentally rotated objects more efficiently. That's why I'm no good at gaming, I figured out. In other words, what that study determined is that their attention's actually better, not worse. So what does that mean? It means that we have adapted to being more able to absorb information at a faster rate, and therefore, we don't need as much concentrated time on any particular task in order to fully connect and complete that task. Okay, in essence, due to technology's influence, our brains are able to adapt at a rapid pace and then move on to the next piece of information in the next task. That's certainly a positive, right? So I think you're probably getting to the point that what does this have to do with education and jobs in the future, right? Well, I submit that this change in the adaptation of our attention span to a shorter period of time is as a result of technology as an analogy to the future of how we need to teach and learn and for our jobs in the future. We have to be able to adapt that quickly and move to the next thing, particularly with technology. So we have traditionally taught students so that they're prepared for one primary career set and skill set, right? And then they would stay in that general area most of their lives, okay? That makes sense. But we look at today's youngest workers, and those are the millennials, and the studies basically show that they would average 4 job changes in the first 10 years after graduation. That's double what the Gen Xers did. They just did 2 in the first 10 years after college. Another piece of information is Jonathan Gruden, principal researcher at Microsoft, remember the ones that did the study about the goldfish attention span? He commented that people will actually create the jobs of the future, not simply train for them because of the technology. They have to figure out where the jobs will be as a result of the technology, not just have them eliminated by the technology. While the traditional model for career planning was to develop skills for jobs in a particular field, the model for the future will require the continuous change. Technology will drive that. To meet the challenges students will face with these changes that occur in the future, I believe that will be important for formal education to help develop in students what I call the idea muscle. Okay, the idea muscle. The only way to strengthen our idea muscle is to use it. So in other words, the more ideas we have, the more ideas we will have, okay? We have to be willing, and this is the key part to your ideal muscle, is that you have to be willing to take the risk that many of your ideas will fail so that you can find the successful ones, okay? How do we help in the formal education world? That's the next part of this. How do we help and develop the ability to exercise this muscle? Well, at first, I think there are several tools, 3 tools I'll list. The first is that we establish, and I think we do this, establish a solid and diverse base of knowledge, skills, and abilities. Okay, that's the first tool. Second is to foster and embrace the need for lifelong learning. So just because you graduated doesn't mean you're done. And the other thing is we have to adapt as part of that lifelong learning. And third, we have to encourage creativity and problem solving. And really that's the crux that I'll get to in a minute. So in addition to the broad-based and specific knowledge and skills that we do as part of our formal education process already, the things I said we already are doing, what we need to focus on and increase our focus on is in the soft skills necessary for success in the workplace. So basically, we in the past, and we are currently still doing this to some extent, we are taking for granted that those skills naturally existed with people. Okay, so as a formal education, we have to try to develop those skills that we didn't always have to worry about before because of that those existed. So I did some research on that, and where are we? Actually in May, the Pew Research Center actually said that the tough to teach intangible skills, capabilities, and attributes such as emotional intelligence, curiosity, creativity, adaptability, resilience, and critical thinking will be the most highly valued skills in the workforce. That's kind of different than what we're used to when you identify skills on a position description, right? They might say, critical thinking, but they don't focus on those skills. Then I was fortunate to listen to an author named Jeffrey Salingo who had done a review of about 20 million job links, job descriptions to determine what are the top 5 most listed necessary skills by employers. And he had the 5 were communication and writing, organizational skills and planning, problem solving, detail attentiveness, and the one I find really interesting, and I'm not going to pass up this opportunity to tell you about it, is Microsoft Excel. So you got it, right? A bunch of soft skills and Excel, right? So Microsoft is always getting us in this from what I can tell. I believe that public education is the best place to begin teaching and learning those soft skills because it is where the best connection is and relationships with the educators and the students are existing already. So that's where I think we should start. Building from that into the second tool is the need to embrace and maybe we have to teach lifelong learning, okay? Maybe lifelong learning is a skill in and of itself. So with technology, there is now and will continue to be widely available and flexible educational opportunities, right? We know that. There are MOOCs, there are all kinds of things that you can do for free to learn more about everything. So we know those exist, but what is lacking with the technology is they don't help with those soft skills and those adaptability and some of those factors. So we have to have those as a solid base because we know we can reach out and get those hard skills through other educational opportunities as we go. One of the problems going forward, though, is that some of those jobs don't exist yet. So we don't even know what jobs today in our formal process to train for. Okay? Finally, and this is the important part of my idea of developing the idea muscle and how to prepare students for jobs in the future in this region and in West Virginia, is that we have to learn to be creative problem solvers. How do we get students, and then when they get into the workforce, to be creative problem solvers? Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? But basically, due to advances in technology, some of those jobs, as I already say, that exist today will not exist in the future, and some that do not exist will exist in the future. That will require us to identify the problems that are created in the future and then creatively solve them. For me, the encouragement to learn to think creatively about solving problems comes from my high school math teacher. He was this guy, he would make these really interesting allegations like, my dad is behind this wall. Okay, he would just say that. And we're high school students, and we assume that, no, he's not, right? But isn't that the conclusion, not the result? Isn't that not the proof that he's not behind there? That's the conclusion he's not behind the wall. He also said one that we found way more interesting, and that's that he taught his dog to drink through a straw. Okay? So I'm thinking about that, and we were like dying to know how he was going to prove that. But he made us prove the negative, that it didn't happen, that he wasn't able to do it. So we would beg him to tell us how he got his dog to teach it, even we wanted to know all the tricks. And what he said was, well, don't worry, I have a photograph. Okay, so he had a photograph at home. Well, for like weeks, he would forget the photograph, conveniently. One day, he finally says, I have it. And we were so excited because we wanted to see how he taught his dog to drink through a straw. And he shows it, the big unveil is a wallet-sized hand drawing of his dog drinking through a straw. I remember the stripes on that, the pencil drawing. I still think that still sticks in my mind. Why did he not bring an actual photo? What was his explanation for that? It was that picture was just far too valuable for him to bring in and share with high school students. That was his reasoning. But in the end, what he did for me was taught me to think outside of the surface problem and look at its root cause. And how do I prove, or in that case, prove the negative? I couldn't prove that he never taught his dog to drink through a straw. But I learned and created processes to resolve problems that I didn't even know existed. I never thought of that before. So to wrap this up, I'll go back to my friend's opinion about how our patience will run thinner the faster we expect technology to provide us information and perform tasks. Our lack of patience and a reduction in our attention spans may actually be increasing, not decreasing, our ability to handle and adapt to change and our need to be lifelong learners so that we can develop the skills and abilities when needed to be prepared for the very jobs in our futures that we don't know about yet. Not to mention that our impatience may encourage us to think about problems in new ways, and isn't that in the end what jobs really are? Identifying problems and solving them in new and creative ways. So, thank you.